Welcome back, you guys, and let's rank the MVP candidates as of All-Star break. The games start back up tonight, so we'll have more information to gather from once we get to March and April. Let me just say that it's just basketball and we all enjoy the game, so I'm not going to be mad if your list is something different than mine or if you disagree, so don't hesitate to challenge my reasoning. So before I get into who I have at number 9 and number 10, let me tell you why this part was difficult. My top 8 players for MVP is set, but 9 and 10 have been pretty hard to choose from. I don't have LeBron here, even though I thought about putting him at number 10. He had the Lakers in the playoffs when he was healthy, but then he missed almost 5 weeks while other guys like Jokic and Embiid were getting their teams wins. I thought about putting Russell Westbrook in. Even though Russ is shooting poorly this year, he's still finding ways to help the Thunder win games on offense and defense. This has been his best defensive season in some time. But at the number 10 spot, I got Damian Lillard, and at the number 9 spot, I got Kyrie Irving. You can switch them if you want. It's pretty simple. Dame is the clear best player on a 4th-seeded Western Conference team. The Trailblazers have a top 10 offense this year, and a lot of that has to do with Dame's ability to score and pass off of pick and rolls. Dame is averaging the same numbers he did last year in his first-team All-NBA year, and he's probably going to be either second or third team this year, depending on how the last games play out. Moving to Kyrie Irving, and this is probably his best season since the 2016-2017 season with the Cavs, and it will probably go down as his best as long as he keeps playing like this. His assist, rebound, and shooting percentages are all at career highs. If you remember early on in the season, the Celtics had a bottom 10 offense, and now in February, they are top 10 in points per possession, and a lot of that has to do with Kyrie playing within the offense and taking over in the fourth quarter when needed. They are just objectively better with Kyrie on the floor. Not to mention, this is also his best defensive season ever. He's putting in a lot more effort defending point guards and getting over screens. Defense obviously isn't a strength, but it's nowhere near a weakness like it was in his early Cleveland days. Okay, so this is where we might disagree on. I have Kawhi Leonard at number 8. Let me just say that there's not that much of a difference from players ranked 6 through 8 on this list. If you want to move a player here and there, it's fine. Kawhi has had a great year. He's scoring and rebounding more than he did in his 2016-2017 season. He had a stretch from the beginning of December to the middle of January where he was the best offensive and defensive player on the floor for the majority of the game. When he's healthy and been in rhythm, he's the Kawhi that we all know. But he's still dealing with that injury, and the Raptors as a team are technically playing well, but there's still more room to grow for this team. It seems like when I watch them, they're still trying to implement their ball movement offense and Kawhi's isolation plays, which has led to some losses in close games that probably should not have been close. The Raptors are 13-3 in games Kawhi does not play, which included beating the Clippers and Warriors on a back-to-back. He's been more impactful than Dame and Kyrie for the Raptors team defense and offense, which is why I have him above those two, but he hasn't been as available on the court, and I think other players have been more impactful for their teams, so I have him lower. At numbers 7 and 6, I got Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, Durant being at number 7 and Curry being at number 6. You could put one above the other. They're both equally important to their team's chances at a championship, and the Warriors right now are first in the West. Besides having Clay, teams are really able to just focus in on Durant. Besides Clay, there really wasn't anybody else to really worry about on offense, so teams were able to key in on Durant. He had 3 straight 40-point games at the end of November, including that 50-point game and a loss against the Raptors. Right now, he's statistically the best shooter from the mid-range area. It seems like KD always slowly drags his way to a 30-point night, even when you think he's not making that big of an impact. Anybody averaging 27, 7, and 6 on 50% shooting is an MVP candidate. KD would have to go to some other team and take them to the top of the conference to get more serious MVP love. The argument supporting Steph is that he came out the gates as the MVP frontrunner. In the first month of the season, he was putting up 33, 5, and 5 on 52% shooting, and then he missed 3 weeks due to injury. When he came back, he didn't really miss a step and played at an MVP level, but with a slight drop-off from the beginning of the season. Durant has probably been more consistent, but Steph has had the higher peaks. He suffers from the same problem as KD. He's on this Warriors super team, so he's not going to get top 2 MVP love unless KD leaves. Okay, so we're going to have 2 players here again because the race between these two is pretty close, and they both have pretty strong arguments for the MVP. At number 5, I got Joel Embiid, and at number 4, I got Nikola Jokic. What's been amazing about Embiid's season is that, and I've mentioned this one on Twitter, he hasn't played much basketball in the last 7 years. Most best players in the league historically played high-level AAU and high school basketball, then a year of college, then years in the NBA. But Embiid has played like less than 200 organized games since he was 16. He was never a part of that AAU circuit. He missed some of his college season, and he missed 2 seasons of NBA game reps, but he's still able to affect the game at an MVP level on both ends. He's a 7-footer averaging 27 and 13, and the Sixers are objectively worse when he's not on the floor. Now moving on to Nikola Jokic, and he is driving a Nuggets team with nothing close to an all-star level player but himself to a top 2 seed in the competitive Western Conference. Running an offense through a center in the year 2019 is extremely difficult unless you are the best passing big man of all time, and that's what Jokic probably is. Jokic can't run a pick and roll like Dame or Kyrie to get where he wants on the court. He's doing his offense through post-ups and passes from the elbow. The way he creates elite offense from moving the ball at the right time with the right angles is pretty crazy. His team has dealt with injuries, and yes, they do have a deep roster, but mixing guys in and out of the lineup in the middle of a season is not an easy thing to do when you're trying to build consistency on offense and defense. Jokic has been elevating the team through the injuries, and they're going to have a better record than they did last year, most likely. You guys remember before the season when a lot of people were sort of low on Paul George before the season? I know around October I was debating the question, who is better between Paul George and Jimmy Butler? I said Paul George was slightly better because he's a cleaner fit on most teams' offenses, and he's a better defender because of his size. It's funny looking back at that now just a few months ago because it's not even close now. Paul George is so much better than Jimmy Butler right now and has been a top 5 player this year, while Jimmy has never been a top 5 player. Right now, Paul George is the best offensive and defensive player on a 37-win OKC Thunder team. It's actually kind of crazy how much of OKC's offense relies on Paul George's shot making. With Russ shooting poorly this year, OKC doesn't have another guy who can consistently score 20 to 25 points from the perimeter, so if PG is just having an average night on offense, the Thunder probably have a rough night unless they get some bench contributions. Since January 1st, PG is averaging 32 points, bringing down 8 rebounds and making 5 threes per game and playing the best defense of his career. He scored 30 points 11 times this year, including back-to-back 40-point games. He is slightly behind my top 2 candidates, so he'll have to push the Thunder to the 2nd seed in the West to really challenge for the award. At number 2, we got James Harden. The Houston Rockets have the 2nd ranked offense in the league and are the 5th seed in the Western Conference, and a lot of that has to do with Harden playing at a level that few players in the history of the league have done. He's carrying the Rockets offense with dribble isolation plays. From what I've known from just paying attention to basketball over the years, what Harden is doing is supposed to be ineffective offense and does not lead to team offense success. But that's just not true for Harden. He has completely destroyed what I know as a good shot. What makes Harden so great is that the step back threes and the over dribbling he does to get his points is not a good shot for most NBA players, but he's doing it and it's effective. Let's look at Harden's stats since January 1st. He's averaging 42 points per game, 8 rebounds, dishing out 7 assists, and shooting 44% from the field. He's been without Clint Capella, he's been playing without Eric Gordon, and was getting wins with G League players in his lineup. The Rockets season could have turned out really disappointing, but Harden has saved it, and they're pretty much a playoff team. I don't want to put an arbitrary measure on what Harden has to do to get to number 1, but I'd assume the Rockets need to be a home court playoff team and get 50 plus wins. Harden's situation is funny to me because the team success argument that was used against Russell Westbrook in 2017 is now flipped onto Harden. He's almost the only reason why Houston is winning games, so he deserves this spot. My MVP through All-Star break is Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Milwaukee Bucks have the best record in the league, and they are the only team that is both top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. They are scoring and defending with the league's best teams, with Giannis leading the way. He's averaging 27 points, 13 rebounds, dishing out 6 assists, and shooting 58% from the field. As I've mentioned on Twitter at the trade deadline, this Bucks team is pretty much the 2009 Magic. Giannis is Dwight, but way more dynamic on offense as he can dribble and make a mid-range shot. He does not have much of a three-point shot, but you can't really give him too much room because if he finds that small sliver of space, he's going to muscle right past you for a Euro step dunk or a layup. Giannis is dominating this year within the Bucks team offense. You'll see him setting screens and moving the ball where he doesn't get an assist. You hear a lot about Paul George being a Defensive Player of the Year frontrunner, and no doubt he's a deserving candidate, but what about Giannis as Defensive Player of the Year? The Bucks are the #1 defensive team in the league, and he's the best defensive player on that team. He's probably either the first or second best off-ball defender in the league right now and can defend the rim reasonably well. The Bucks are probably going to win 60 plus games, and if Giannis stays at this level, he's going to win his first MVP. And that's it for me. Again, it's just hoops and we all enjoy the sport, so I'm not going to be mad if you have something different than mine. Things are going to change as these last 25 games mean a lot for the playoff seeding. Really appreciate it if you made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't hesitate to drop a like, subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you guys soon.